First, please take a look at the statement made by Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva on June 20, 2025.
This is an unjust war imposed on my people since early hours of Friday 13 June, when Israel perpetrated a mix of unlawful and criminal operations against off-duty military personnel, university professors, and ordinary people. Hundreds of my fellow Iranians have been killed and injured following Israel's surprise armed attacks and terrorist operations on residential areas, public infrastructures, hospitals, health centers, and of course, the Foreign Ministry. Our peaceful nuclear facilities have also been targeted, despite their being under full monitoring of IAEA, and despite the fact that attacking such facilities are absolutely banned under international law. Israeli attacks on nuclear facilities are grave war crimes, given also the danger of environmental and health catastrophe as the result of radiological leakage. Mr. President, Iran, a founding member of the United Nations system, rightfully expects each and every one of you to stand for justice, rule of law, and basic tenets of humanity and ethics. Iran is under a merciless act of aggression. This is crystal clear fact, must not be allowed to be twisted upside down by Israel and its backers. Israel aggression on Iran cannot and must not be justified by any legal or moral standards. Any justification for this unjust and criminal war would be tantamount to complicity. Iran is defending itself against the barbaric aggression. We are entitled, tasked, and determined to defend our territorial integrity, national sovereignty, and security with all force. This is our inherent right, as also clearly recognized under Article 51 of Charter. Dear colleagues, the peace and rule of law are at serious stake as the result of Israel's unlawful invasion of Iran. Israel is committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. International humanitarian law, already badly undermined as a consequence of Israel's relentless atrocities in occupied Palestine and elsewhere, is now under another extremely serious danger as Israel is committing grave violations of 1949 Geneva Conventions. Mr. President, Switzerland is the custodian of Geneva Conventions and protocols on IHL and has an important responsibility in this regard. Indeed, every state party to 1949 Convention shall shoulder their responsibility under these conventions, in particular, Common Articles 1 and 3 of these conventions. Dear colleagues, we were attacked in the midst of an ongoing diplomatic process. We were supposed to meet with Americans on 15 June to craft a very promising agreement for peaceful resolution of the issues fabricated over our peaceful nuclear program. It was a betrayal of diplomacy and an unprecedented blow to the foundation of international law and UN system. Let me be clear. If there is any use of costly systems and mechanisms we have created for the past 80 decades to preserve human rights and dignity, now is the time to do it. We need action now. Otherwise, the whole UN-based international law system would corrode badly. This is a historic moment for human civilization when a civilized nation has come under an unjust war of aggression. The world, every state, every UN mechanism and body has to be alarmed and has to act now to stop the aggressor, to end impunity and to hold the criminals accountable for their unending atrocities and crimes in our region. This is a call from someone who has allocated his whole life to dialogue and diplomacy, but who also is a veteran of an imposed war by Saddam regime and knows how to defend his beloved motherland. Thank you so much.
The following day, the United States launched an attack on Iranian nuclear facilities. The day after the attack, Foreign Minister Araghchi held a press conference in Istanbul, Turkey, where he was visiting.
Very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so glad to be with you this morning. Actually, we invited you yesterday for a briefing on the latest developments on the ground and, of course, on diplomatic process. Because I came here from Geneva, where we had our first ministerial meeting of Iran E3, and then I had here yesterday lots of useful, important meetings with the foreign ministers of our region, and we discussed about different initiatives and ideas existed for a peaceful settlement of this question. But as all of you know, we suddenly faced with the aggression by American forces to our nuclear facilities. The Islamic Republic of Iran condemns in the strongest terms the United States' brutal military aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities. It is an outrageous, grave, and unprecedented violation of the fundamental principles of the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The warmongering and lawless administration in Washington is solely and fully responsible for the dangerous consequences and far-reaching implications of its act of aggression. The US military attack on the territorial integrity and national sovereignty of a UN member state carried out with genocidal Israeli regime, carried out in collusion with the genocidal Israeli regime, has once again revealed the extent of the United States' hostility towards the peace-seeking people of Iran, who will never compromise over their independence and sovereignty. The Islamic Republic of Iran continues to defend Iran's territory, sovereignty, security, and people by all means necessary against not just US military aggression, but also the reckless and unlawful actions of the Israeli regime. While President Trump was elected on a platform of putting an end to America's costly involvement of forever wars in our part of the world, he has betrayed not only Iran by abusing our commitment to diplomacy, but also deceived his own voters by submitting to the wishes of a wanted war criminal who has grown accustomed to exploiting the lives and wealth of American citizens to further the Israeli regime's objectives. The US act of aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities constitutes not only a flagrant breach of the UN Charter, especially the prohibition of the use of force under Article 2, Paragraph 4, and the obligation to respect the state's territorial integrity and sovereignty, but also a violation of UN Security Council Resolution 2231. It cannot be emphasized enough how much of a devastating blow that the US, a permanent member of the Security Council, has dealt to the global non-proliferation regime. The Islamic Republic of Iran reminds the United Nations, the Security Council, the UN Secretary General, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and other relevant international bodies of their duty and responsibility to take urgent and decisive action in response to this breach of international law. Silence in the face of such blatant aggression will plunge the world into an unprecedented level of danger and chaos. Humanity has come too far as auspicious to allow a lawless bully to take us back to the law of the jungle. The Islamic Republic of Iran calls on the Security Council to convene an emergency session to unequivocally condemn the criminal act of aggression by the United States against Iran and to hold the administration in Washington accountable for its violations of fundamental principles of United Nations Charter and of norms of international law. The responsibility of the IAEA and its Director General, who through evident bias in favor of warmongering parties paved the way for the current violence and bloodshed, is now clearer than ever. We call on the IAEA Board of Governors to immediately convene and carry out its legal responsibility in response to the dangerous US attack on Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities, all of which have been under the agency's full safeguards and monitoring. The world must not forget that it was the United States which, in the midst of a process to forge a diplomatic outcome, betrayed diplomacy by supporting the genocidal Israeli regime's launch of an illegal war of aggression on the Iranian nation. Not content with such malign actions, the United States itself has now also opted for a dangerous military operation and aggression against the people of Iran. In doing so, the US administration holds sole and full responsibility for the consequences of its actions, including the Islamic Republic of Iran's right to self-defense under the principles of the United Charter. In accordance with the UN Charter and its provisions allowing a legitimate response in self-defense, Iran reserves all options to defend its security, interests, and people. Thank you very much.
Mr. Minister, the US President Donald Trump warned that Iran must now make peace, otherwise the future attacks, he says, would be far greater and much easier. So how is Tehran responding to that threats from Washington? Thank you.
I think it's not up to Iran to respond to that. The whole international community should respond of such a clear threat against the United Nations Charter. Iran has done nothing wrong. We do not understand why Iran should be attacked for a false accusation that Iran is seeking nuclear weapons. It's now more than 20 years that we are trying to prove that our peaceful nuclear program is in fact peaceful and would remain peaceful. We negotiated for a long time with the so-called P5+1, and we came to a deal which the whole world celebrated as an achievement of diplomacy. And then it was the US who withdrew from that deal and reimposed their sanctions and restarted their threats. Again, we were negotiating with the same administration. Then all of a sudden they decided to attack us, first by Israelis, then by themselves. And now they are threatening us for more attacks. So it's not up to Iran, but it's up to international community to condemn this, to prevent this. Otherwise, there would be nothing left for the international law, for the security at the world level. The Security Council should play its role, should play its responsibility to condemn and prevent these kind of threats. We will certainly defend our interest. We will certainly defend our territorial integrity, our sovereignty, and our people. And I'm so glad that our people are now fully understand what injustice they are doing against the Iranian people. They are united and in solidarity with the government, and we stand firm against any aggression.
Yılmaz Parlar, Türker Gazete, Türkiye Cumhuriyeti'nden çıkan gazete.
I'm from a Turkic newspaper and also representing Net News Agency. It is indicated that China is supporting Iran. How do you evaluate its deterrence power vis-a-vis USA and Israel? And can we learn your expectations about your relations with the Russian Federation?
Well, there was a problem with the translation, or I think with the device, it doesn't work properly. I understood the last part of your question. Well, I'm going to Moscow this afternoon, and I have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow morning. Russia is a friend of Iran, and we enjoy a strategic partnership, and we always consult with each other and coordinate our positions. Russia has been a part and the participants of JCPOA, so they have been always a party to nuclear negotiations. And even in the past 2-3 months that we were negotiating with the United States, we always briefed our Russian friends about the latest about any progress or lack of progress in our talks. Well, I will have serious consultations with the Russian president tomorrow, and we continue to work with each other. Russia is also a permanent member of the Security Council, and we know that they were trying, together with China, to introduce a resolution to the Security Council for the cessation of hostilities. Obviously, now the situation has been changed, and I will have a discussion with them that how it should be proceed.
Уважаемый господин министр, очень рад вас видеть. Добрый день, добро пожаловать.
جناب آقای وزیر خیلی مطلب عرض میکنم. خیلی خوشحالم از اینکه ملاقات داریم امروز.
Вы совершаете визит в Россию в сложный период.
در طی یک دوره سخت سفر داریم به روسیه.
Период резкого обострения ситуации в регионе и вокруг вашей страны.
در طی دوره افزایش تشنج در منطقه و در کشور شما.
Наша позиция в отношении происходящих событий хорошо известна. Она ясно изложена, артикулирована Министерством иностранных дел от имени России. И вы знаете о позиции, которую мы заняли в Совете Безопасности Организации Объединенных Наций.
موضع کشورمون خوبی مطلع هستیم. این موضع به طور روشن و واضح توسط وزارت امور خارجه روسیه به نماینده از طرف روسیه اعلام شد و نیز در جریان هستیم موضع کشورمون در شورای امنیت سازمان ملل متحد چی هست.
Неспровоцированная абсолютно агрессия против Ирана не имеет под собой никаких оснований и никаких оправданий.
تجاوز بی‌دلیل علیه ایران هیچ اساسی ندارد.
У нас с Ираном давние, добрые, надежные отношения.
روابط ما با ایران سوابق طولانی و خوب دارد.
Мы со своей стороны предпринимаем усилия для того, чтобы оказать содействие иранскому народу.
از طرف خودمون ما تلاش میکنیم که بتوانیم به مردم ایران مساعدت بکنیم.
как вы знаете, я провел телефонный разговор и с президентом Соединенных Штатов, и с премьер-министром Израиля, с президентом Арабских Эмиратов, с президентом вашей страны. Знаю, что вы только что встречались с министрами иностранных дел в Европе.
همانطور که در جریان هستیم و خبر دارین، من یه سری گفتگوهای تلفنی را داشتم، هم با رئیس جمهور ایالات متحده آمریکا، هم با نخست وزیر اسرائیل و همچنین با رئیس جمهور امارات و نیز با رئیس جمهور کشور شما. ما در جریان هستیم که خود جناب عالی در روزهای اخیر نیز ملاقات‌هایی داشتیم با رؤسای وزارتخانه‌های امور خارجه کشورهای اروپایی.
Я очень рад, что вы сегодня в Москве.
من خیلی خوشحالم از اینکه شما امروز در مسکو هستید.
Это даст возможность нам обсудить все эти острые темы и вместе подумать на тему о том, как можно было бы выйти из сегодняшней ситуации.
و این امر به ما یک فرصت میده که ما بتوانیم بررسی بکنیم چگونه می شود یک راه حلی پیدا شود با هم این کار را انجام.
И прошу вас передать самые наилучшие пожелания и президенту Ирана, и верховному религиозному лидеру.
موجب امتنان خواهد بود، چنانچه بهترین عرضه ها را برسانید، هم خدمت مقام معظم رهبری، هم خدمت رئیس جمهور محترم.
جناب آقای رئیس جمهور، از دیدار شما خیلی خوشوقت.
Уважаемый господин президент, очень рад сегодня возможности с вами провести встречу.
این دیدار در شرایط بسیار خطیر و مهمی داره صورت میگیره که در منطقه ما الان جریان.
Как вы правильно отметили, эта встреча проходит в то время, когда в наш регион только усугубляются все кризисы и вопросы.
روابط ایران و روسیه یک روابط بسیار نزدیک و قدیمی هست و در سالهای اخیر به جنبه راهبردی ارتقا پیدا کرد.
У нас есть очень близкие и добрые отношения, как вы отметили, и за последние годы наши двусторонние отношения стали носить стратегический характер.
و ما همواره با دوستان خودمون در روسیه مشورت‌های نزدیک رو داشتیم در همه مسائل.
И постоянно с российскими коллегами мы ведем консультации на регулярной основе по всем направлениям и вопросам мировой безопасности.
در موضوع برنامه هسته ایران، روسیه یک شریک و همراه بوده، نیروگاه بوشهر رو برای ما ساخته. در مذاکرات هسته‌ای هم روسیه همواره حضور داشته و یکی از شرکای مذاکره بود.
В сфере ядерной программы Ирана Российская Федерация как партнер строит нам АЭС Бушер и помогает нам в этой сфере, а также по вопросам достижения ядерных соглашений. Российская Федерация сыграла позитивную роль, чтобы мы смогли достичь хороших договоренностей.
سطح تنش الان در حال افزایش هست به خاطر تهاجم بی‌دلیلی که режим Израиль و بعد خود آمریکا به ایران صورت داد.
Но вы прекрасно видите, что уровень эскалации с каждым днем только разрастается, большим сожалением, из-за того, что они решились нападать на наши объекты. Не только Израиль, но и затем американцы решили нападать на наши объекты.
این تهاجم‌ها خلاف منشور ملل متحد هست، نقض قوانین بین‌المللی هست و جمهوری اسلامی ایران در حال دفاع مشروع در مقابل این تهاجم هست.
Эти агрессивные действия со стороны Израиля и США совершенно нелегитимны и нарушают международные правила и международные нормы. И мы сейчас защищаем свой суверенитет и страну, и наша защита носит легитимный характер.
ما از مواضع بسیار محکم و درست روسیه در محکوم کردن این تهاجم تشکر.
Мы также хотели поблагодарить российских коллег и друзей с тем, что они решительно осудили эти агрессивные действия.
روسیه در جهت درست مطابق با قوانین بین‌المللی قرار داره.
Россия сегодня находится на правильной стороне истории и международного права.
مقام معظم رهبری و جناب آقای رئیس جمهور پزشکیان به جناب عالی سلام گرم خودشون رو رسوندن.
Также верховный лидер и иранский президент господин Пезешкиан попросили меня передать вам наилучшие пожелания.
امیدوارم امروز بحث خوبی رو با هم داشته باشیم.
Я надеюсь, что мы сегодня сможем обсудить весь спектр вопросов, связанных с этим событием.
Благодарю вас.
Ташак.